Hello, I am Young Penitent, and you are in my corner. Today, we are going to be watching a short film I produced and released last Friday. The film is called Voyage to Vashon. And today, I'm not just watching it alone. I've invited on a guest, and his name is Corbin Tolen. And he is also a content creator. He has his own channel over on Rockfin, and it is called Rogue Splice. And he does live streaming, and he also produces edited content over there, and you can go check him out. It's free content. So I'm gonna bring him on here and let him introduce himself. Actually, I think he could do that better than me. So welcome to Young Penitent's channel, Mr. Corbin.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniel. It's nice to be on a show for the first time here. I've been watching your show. You got great starter episodes for people approaching the Orthodox faith. Definitely glad to be on here. Very informative channel, and excited to go through this monastery video and ask some questions to you.
Thank you. Yes, Corbin has been doing, you've been creating content for about a year. Is that right?
Yeah, about a year. It's mostly just an Oregon-based channel. It's just going over like events that happen, talking about stuff that kind of mainstream media doesn't really go towards. And through the process of that time, I would say I've kind of learned quite a bit as far as even just getting to Orthodox itself. I mean, it started from one point in my life and we're just going forward, and now we're going through the Orthodox Church and learning more into that and reading books on it. And it's definitely the whole content creating network out there. The content creators that are Orthodox Christians is exactly how we even found this religion itself, because we never even knew. Me and my uncle didn't even know about Orthodox Christianity to begin with. So it really opened up our eyes to more what's out there. And this is really it's really definitely hitting home as far as filling in voids that weren't getting filled before. So yeah.
Yeah, you're not alone in not knowing what orthodoxy was, because that was where I was at when I first started going to church. I had maybe only read about it like a paragraph in my world religions class at the university. And so, yeah, Sword from the Mouth has a comment, says this is Rogue Splice, the first appearance of Rogue Splice on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. We were talking, we were saying, I'll try not to say anything to get this video banned. I'll watch my
Thank
mouth.
you.
Uh,
Yeah. I kind of envy you a little bit, because over on Rockfin, you are completely censorship free. And, I'd like to produce some censorship free content sometime. Maybe I'll, in the future, I'll have some videos specially produced for another channel, another platform, so that I can say what I want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're ever ready to take the step to Rockfin, we can get you in there. So
Great.
just keep that
Okay.
in mind.
Well, that's probably a good introduction. So let's mosey on over to the screen here. Voyage to Vashon. This is the film I produced. Hopefully everybody's watched it, but if you have not watched it yet, you can go to my channel, and it is at present, it is the featured video up. If you are subscribed, it will pop up first. If not, it's down under the uploads. So first thing I want to say is, notice the color here. This is Voyage to Vashon in orange. And, people's brands tend to gravitate towards a particular color. And it seems like my color is orange. That's what the color of my brand is turning out to be, it seems. So this is where that's the beginning of this. And so let me press play here and get going. Coming up to the toll house here.
That's for the ferry.
That's for the ferry, yeah. And so before we get much further, I'm going to pause it. There's going to be a lot of pausing going on here. I cut out like about 3 minutes from my first edit of this film, and that was in the beginning. I had a scene where we were driving up I-5, me and my traveling companion, and I didn't realize, I don't have a microphone on my iPhone. And so the sound of the road was so loud and you could barely hear my voice, and it was really harsh on the ears. So I had to cut out a few minutes. I had done some narration. I said, here we are, we're driving up I-5, it's going to be this long of a trip and so forth. And I had made some commentary, but I had to take that out, unfortunately. And I also took out, I had filmed me going up and picking up my my traveling companion from his house. And I decided I had better take that out because it would have doxed him, because it showed the door of his apartment. And if everybody remembers a few years ago when the world was going crazy, especially here in Oregon, there was a story about these Antifa groups that they saw something on a social media post that they didn't like from some guy down in Springfield here in the Mid-Valley. And they went and they drove down. They got on social media. They got all their friends together, and they went down and created a mob outside this guy's house to terrorize him. So this kind of thing is a real, this danger of something like that happening to me or my friend is real. This could happen in the future. So we have to be kind of careful about what we share on the internet. We have a question from OBG. How are you editing? In the iPhone? No. This is edited on a program called iMovie, which is just a free program that comes. But I did film on an iPhone. So, it's not maybe in the next investment I get might be a nice filming camera with a microphone on it if I end up doing more of these. But for now, it's going to be the iPhone. So let's continue. And just stop me anytime if you want me to stop it or have a question or anything.
Minutes of memory do you think a phone has? For
A lot. You can offload it. There are ways of offloading the stuff to other things.
I don't have like cloud storage or anything like that. They keep asking me this. They keep saying, "You're almost full. Do you want to pay for more storage?" And I found out it was from my old phone from like 5 years ago that I don't even have anymore.
This is up in Washington, right?
Yeah, this is Vashon Island in the Salish Sea is what it's actually, and most people know it as the Puget Sound, but Abbott Trefon likes to draw attention to the fact that it is known as the Salish Sea. And he has his brotherhood, the lay brotherhood, the St. John Brotherhood that he has created, and they're known as the Knights of the Salish Sea. Another question from OBG. iMovie, how did you get it over there? Oh, I just downloaded it from my phone. I just kind of had to figure it out. It wasn't too hard. So this is Vashon Island. It's kind of it's sort of an artist community. There are some people who commute to work. They'll take this ferry every day. There's a ferry here to this. This is the Point Defiance ferry ride, and there's also one that goes over to, which is close to Tacoma. There's also one that goes straight to downtown Seattle, and you have to take a ferry. There's no other way. There's no bridge onto the island. The island itself has about I think it's about 20,000 population. It shrinks down to about 12,000 in the winter, but in the summer, it's also a kind of a summer home residence. So it grows to about 20,000 in the summer is what I understand.
Gotcha. And the monastery, how much space, how large is the monastery that's on the island?
It's about, well, they have acres, and actually there's a nice photograph. I might be able to pull it up. There is a nice photograph of the island, but it's surrounded by forest. They must have like 40 acres or something. A lot of this island itself is forested.
Okay, so 40 acres. It's a pretty big plot of land then.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of nice. It kind of buffers them from the surrounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had my co-pilot doing the filming for me here.
Did a pretty good job keeping that steady.
Guidelines. My sister and I cannot be in the waiting area.
So as soon as we got there, they invited us to a cup of coffee, and we sat down to chat. This is in the trapeza, the monastery trapeza, where they'll have their meals. And you'll notice all the books that are on the table. I talked about that in my previous stream, how they had just gotten this donation of books from a priest who was moving. And also on this table on the right, you can see Father Martin is doing his soap works there. He sort of transforms the trapeza into a little workshop for his soaps that he sells on their website.
So what's the definition of a trapeza? I thought it was going to be like a galley. Is it kind of just like a meeting space, or what?
Well, trapeza is sort of like a mess hall, I guess you would say. It's where they eat the meals. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it will be in a Russian monastery. That's what it will be referred to. That's my traveling companion, Stylianos.
At the same time, so I'm outside.
Father Martin there.
Inside with Mom, weird rules, and I said woke rules. And then he says morons. I, of course, mean that in the loving Christian way.
And here you see that's Brother Basil makes his first appearance. I got all the monks got captured, just some more, some less. But you can see they have at the monastery there are 5 monks and one novice, and that's Brother Basil there working in the kitchen. He's the novice of the monastery, and of course everyone knows I have a tree fund.
So for, like you said, 5 monks, 1 novice. What are all the people that can live at a monastery? Or what's that?
Capacity?
Yeah, well, not capacity, but like what type of different people go to a monastery? Because when people think monastery, they just think monks. What are all the different types of people that are there?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So you don't automatically become a monk. It's a process. Your first step into becoming a monk, you will be a postulant, and you can visit a monastery, express your interest in becoming a monk, get a blessing. You're going to probably need a reference from your priest. So if you want to become a monk, your first step is to be a pious layperson, a pious parishioner. You want to be an exemplary parishioner at your local parish, because your priest's not going to recommend you to become a monk if you can't even if you can't live life in a parish and be a good contributing member there. If you're going to be causing problems at a parish, you're not likely to do well at a monastery where the temptations are greater. After you're a postulant, you get a blessing to come to, and you want to become a monk, you go there and they will clothe you in black, and you can become a novice. And then there are various stages of monasticism that you can go through. There is the lesser schema, what is it? Stavrophore. I can't remember. I should have reviewed this before the stream, but there are different stages of monasticism where you're not quite yet a professed monk. You don't take vows when you first become a monk. For example, Father Paisios, who I'll point out, he was recently tonsured into the small schema, and so he took on a new name. Let me see if I can delete this comment. Blocked. Okay.
There you
Some
go.
scammer.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're a novice, there's no commitment made yet. You don't, but once you become become like you take the small schema like Father Paisios, then you actually make a vow, and that's vow you'll have to answer for that. You'll have to answer for that vow at the judgment. So it's a serious step.
Right.
And there's also the great schema, which like a schema monk, you'll see them wearing the paramon, which is that, it's like an inner garment with the cross and the spear and the thing, that the spear with the hyssop and all these words written around it. It's kind of a cool thing. Some people get it tattooed on their arms or whatever, but
I've seen that. Yeah,
it's really a cool thing. I feel drawn to that the paramon, that image on the paramon. But in the Russian tradition, a schema monk is usually taken. You take the full schema either at the end of your life, or if you want to go into reclusion. So Abbot Tryphon would not take that because he has this at this point, because he has this ministry. He has to be out talking to people and in kind of engaging with people quite a bit. So he wouldn't be able, it's more for someone who would be like a recluse and just praying and reading the gospel all day long, that kind of thing. It's really like a BA kind of thing, I think of it. Another comment? Block user. All right. This is error. Okay, anyhow. Continuing on.
So, Lord.
Oh, let me go back. Hold on. This is the church of the entry of the Theotokos. That's their main church. Garden. Father Martin, who is the cook, is the one that usually works in the garden the most. He kind of takes care of it. He keeps himself busy, making soap, cooking meals, tending the garden. And this is St. John's Chapel. And I'm going to show you the inside here real quick. But St. John's Chapel was the first building constructed on the monastery property. So what is the first thing you want to do? You want to build a chapel so you can pray, because prayer is the most important thing, the most important work of a monk. So I bring you inside here real quick. And so you can see this actually there used to be an iconostasis here. And the iconostasis is the gate with all the icons on it that you have in the church. And it had one deacon door on our left. It would be from looking at it straight on, it was on the left, and they had the royal gates in the middle with the curtain, drawn. And one year at one of the St. John Brotherhood, we went up, and when Abbot Tryphon, I went up with my godson Peter, and when Abbot Tryphon found out that Peter was a carpenter, he said, you can see how it's been changed. There's no iconostas there. They took it out and they made it into, instead of, it's sort of like a place where pilgrims can pray here. So we actually did a little bit of a remodel in the last few years, and that there's the icon of St. John on the right that has a relic in it. And eternal gratitude to Peter from the monastery, for remodeling this building for us. And here I'm going to stop again. There's that's it. It looks like it hasn't been used for a while, but that's a fire pit. And so sometimes people have pilgrimages up to the monastery and they'll camp out. There's enough space for people to put out tents. And I remember, recently one of our brotherhood retreats, we were all sitting out here around the fire, sharing ghost stories or whatever it was.
So back to pilgrimage. Can we explain out what exactly a pilgrimage is? Because just like our Father James from our church, he just did a pilgrimage. So that's typically going to just a monastery, or can a pilgrimage be going somewhere else? What exactly is a pilgrim? What is the goal of a pilgrimage?
Well, the main goal is it's a voyage that has at its core the purpose of repentance, and it does not necessarily have to be a monastery. It can be to a holy place. It can be, for example, Jerusalem, to the holy sites in Jerusalem where Christ, where he was executed, where he was buried, where he taught this and that. The places associated with the Lord's earthly sojourn, or just where a particular saint. You could take, for example, we have St. John. His relics are in the cathedral in San Francisco at the Joy of All Who Sorrow Cathedral, and you could go on a pilgrimage just to venerate and pray to venerate St. John's relics and to pray to him. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a monastery. But yes, good question.
Cool. Thank you.
There's trails all over the monastery property. That's the highest point on the property, and on a clear day, you can actually see Seattle in the distance.
Oh, wow.
This is where we stayed. As of now, at the present, they only have room for 2 people. For if you want to go on a pilgrimage there, they only have 2 beds. It's a kind of a limited occupancy. Some monasteries have larger, might have a bunk room or something, but or more.
So we gotta ask, what's the banging on the wood with the hammer?
Right. That's the Samantron. And it is a call to prayer. So who you just saw was Father Paisios, who I was talking about, who had just taken his the small schema. And so 10 minutes before the services begin, he will take that, he'll make that rhythmic beating on the wood and walk a complete circumference around the church. And this is twofold. It has a twofold meaning or purpose. One is the call to prayer, and the second is kind of a not the primary purpose, but it is kind of a side effect of it, is that you frighten the demons. The demons are completely, a monastery is like the front lines of our war against the invisible enemy, and the demons are completely terrified of prayer. And when they hear that, they get frightened because they know that we're about to start the services. And did I mention that was okay? So that was Father Peter, who was walking around, and I just want to say that this guy used to be in the world before he became a monastic. He was an opera singer. So the monastery kind of lucked out in getting a nice singing voice for their choir with this guy.
That is a perk.
Yeah. And so here we are in the temple. And I'm going to stop here. So like I said, I got everybody, all the monks got featured everyone got captured in this film. but I knew that this person who you see venerating right now, this is Monk Nicodemus, and he is camera shy. So you know how Abbot Trifon on his blog every day he posts pictures. Well, sometimes you see Father Nicodemus in the pictures, and he looks like you can tell that he would rather not be in the picture.
Huh.
So I decided if I was going to get him in the film, maybe it would be a way that you can't really see his face, because he would probably appreciate that. He doesn't want to be seen.
Very nice. Very good.
Oh, do we have a question?
Yeah, you do. You got some comments in there.
Okay, OBG says she went to St. John in San Francisco, and she's going to St. Herman of Alaska Monastery for the feast in November. Good idea. I want to make that feast one of these days. I've been there for the other feasts, so the one in the September, but not for the November one. St. Herman's has 3 feast days, so you have plenty of chances. And they're going to Georgia. Are you going? I'm going to send you a message. I know about are you going? I'm going to reach out to you about that Georgia trip, but let's continue watching.
All that put their trust in Him. Alleluia.
Now, I have to say that the monastery makes it really easy for me as a filmmaker. They do a lot of the work for me, because just look at this beautiful scene. You got the candles, the nice singing, the dark church. It's just like very photogenic,
Yeah, and you got a great angle, and your microphone did a pretty darn good job capturing that.
Yeah, decent. I mean, I had to use like an augmentation feature to like bring out the full sound. But
Did you?
yeah. So this is Vespers, the monastery. They do matins in the morning, Vespers at 5, and Compline at 8, or I think 7:30. So they do the full cycle. Here we have the co-founders of All-Merciful Savior Monastery, Father Paul and the renowned Abbot Trifon. Do you have anything to say?
No. After that, what Chris?
Father Paul's a man of few words. I remember I went to a liturgy where Abbot Trifon wasn't there to give a sermon, and he said, well, we have trapeza, and that was his sermon. We have trapeza after the liturgy, and that was it. He didn't.
Are you doing a video?
How long have you guys been here?
30 plus years, anyway.
88.
Since 88.
So that's about 35 years, I think.
36 years.
Whatever.
Yeah. Something around.
More than 30 years.
Older than you, anyway.
I'm Corey.
Oh. So you were 4 years old when we came here. Bless your little heart.
So, for Abbot Trifon, how old is he?
I think he's 76.
76.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very prominent person out there. So and we were talking a bit about him before, but I mean, he started with blogs, correct?
Yeah.
As far as getting his messages out there. Can you give a little bit of a backstory to kind of Abbot Trifon? And he's also your spiritual father, is that correct?
Yes. He grew up Lutheran, and this is all very public information. He's talked about it before. He grew up Lutheran, conservative. Then he went off to college and became a hippie, and dabbled in atheism or did a little Buddhism, this kind of thing. And eventually he became a therapist, and he got sort of disillusioned with working as a therapist one day, and so he just quit his job and went on a road trip. And I think during that road trip, he walked into an Orthodox church, and sort of that began his conversion.
Wow.
And him and Father Paul were actually Eastern Catholic monks first, before they jetted over to a nearby monastery in California in the Bay Area, where his spiritual father, Elder Dimitri, was in residence at the time.
Very good. And so how did he become your spiritual father?
Well, I built a relationship with him over the years. I've gone up and visited his monastery pretty much every year, except unless I was in a hospital or something. Since I was Orthodox, the first time I went up there, I think I was newly illumined in 2006, and so I just built a relationship with him. And so one day I just asked him, and he accepted me.
Gotcha. Very good.
Yeah. So his blog started out, he had a parishioner who was at work reading the Bible to read the daily scripture one day, and his supervisor came and said, "You can't have that here. You can't have the Bible." Imagine them saying that to a Muslim who wanted to pray, during the day. Of course, they wouldn't even dare. So that was a big mistake, because Abbot Trifon said, "Well, I'll just send it to you on an email." And then he started adding a little comment on the scripture reading. And then he started adding photographs on this daily email. And then he started adding other parishioners. And then eventually it became a blog, and it blew up. It was, when it was on Ancient Faith, he had a podcast and a blog there that was, I think, the most downloaded, or the second most downloaded on the entire site. He had I want to say 40,000 followers or something like that. And like a whole city worth of people would read his blog every day.
Wow. Talk about being proactive on.
Yeah. I mean, using the internet, the previous patriarch of Russia, Alexei II, said, if we don't use the internet for evangelism, then only the devil will use it.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, it can absolutely be used for good. So there you go.
Yeah, you said at the beginning that you were. Well, who were the main people that turned you onto Orthodoxy, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no. It was Jay Dyer, Tristan Haggard, and David Patrick Harry.
Nice.
Was the three.
Yeah. See,
Yep.
Those guys are doing work. They're drawing people to the church. They're being extremely useful to the church, I would say.
Right.
Here's the reading of the 6 Psalms, the beginning of Matins.
And the morning splendor from the glory to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen.
So this is our Three Kings soap.
Did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, good shots, man. You're taking good,
Yeah.
good scenic shots.
Well, like I said, they make it easy for you at a monastery.
Right.
Sword for the Mouth says, Seraphim Hamilton, David Erhan, Father Peter Hears, and Father Spiridon. They helped him, I suppose, because this is Sword for the Mouth, who's also turned on to Orthodoxy from internet content makers.
Yeah.
Now, this is Father Martin. Like I said, he is a wonderful cook. I mean, this monastery is really spoiled with his cooking. He'll post pictures up on Telegram on his own channel of his cooking. He does everything. But
he has a Telegram channel?
Yeah. Father Martin's Posts and Pics. You can look it up.
Sweet.
We have a question from OBG, and she has heard different things about how to approach someone about becoming if asking someone to be their spiritual father. And I think she says, do you just directly ask, or do you build a relationship first? I think I would say that you don't want to just immediately, you want to kind of, St. John in the latter says you want to test your spiritual father first a little bit. So you want to see if this is a good fit. You want to see if he really is a genuine spiritual father. But there are different traditions. If you've heard different things, there might be different traditions, and they're probably both valid. But this is Father Martin, like I said, making his soap. This is his soap works, and this is his Three Kings, which his Three Kings soap, which is a Christmas. This is a seasonal, a special seasonal kind of soap that he only brings out once a year. So if you want to get that for a gift for someone, go over to vashonmonks.com and order it now, because it's just dropped. It's just become made available.
Nice.
It's a big hit during the time of nativity, and I'm just taking the loaves and cutting them into bars. Voila. The ends become samplers, which I have over there. I cut them in half again. And the rest of them will become regular soap.
Rejoice, thou bride, unwed.
Rolling out.
Wow. So, like, what would be the daily regiment for a day at the monastery? I mean, you're waking up. I know you were only there for 3 days, but you've mentioned like someone that's been there for maybe a longer term stay. You'll be doing the chores with them and whatnot. For your stay, though, in particular, what was your normal schedule through the day?
Well, since I was staying, okay, typically at a monastery, a typical stay is 3 days. And if you're only staying for 3 days, you're probably not going to be doing any work. But if you stay for longer than 3 days, then they're going to treat you like one of the community, and they're going to give you tasks to do. So if you're staying for longer than 3 days, you want to bring some work boots and maybe some gloves and some pants that you can get dirty, and they'll probably assign you work. The day at this particular monastery begins at 6 o'clock with matins. Then there's a breakfast and a break, and then there will be work hours, throughout the day until, they have the lunch, and then another work hour and some quiet time. But if you're only staying for 3 days, it's going to be a nice, relaxed stay. You can read some spiritual books, visit the bookstore, if you want spiritual direction, make sure it would be a good idea to contact the monastery prior and say that you would like to have some time with a priest to discuss some spiritual matter if you want direction. So make sure to arrange that beforehand. Yeah.
Very cool. So, as well, do like the monks that are living there, do they often travel out from their monastery to go to other ones, or like how much of their life is dedicated to that monastery, basically? How often do they ever go outside of it much, or how's that look for their lives?
It depends on the monastery, and it depends on your position in the monastery. So if you're just, I was just reading came across something in my reading how the monks, they don't, go back to the world and they don't see their relatives. I was just reading in the Evergetno saying, they didn't even want to see their parents when the parents came and visited them. but that's not always necessarily the case. You know, Abbot Trifon, he would go when his parents were alive, he would go once a year and see them. And that ended up actually being a boon because his parents converted. So, you know, it was actually, I think it was probably worthwhile for him to take time to go and talk to his parents because it ended up being good for their salvation. I know that Father Paul once a year, I think he goes and sees his family, but there are some monks, and also family can come and visit. I've seen Father Paisio's parents actually before they had come and visited him at the monastery. And also, if you're, some priests and monasteries, they will be, they'll say they might go out and to serve at a parish if a parish needs a visiting priest or something like that sometimes. Or they need to go buy groceries or whatever. But a lot of the times they'll just stay on the monastery grounds.
Gotcha. So yeah, I was wondering that because like you said, it depends on the monastery sometimes because I watched, you're the one who even clued me into it, Mount Athos. I mean, the Mount Athos. One of the monks there was talking about how that's where he doesn't leave basically. He's talking about his father basically getting ready to pass on and talking with the reporter that was there, saying he wasn't going to go home to, say goodbye or anything like that because he would meet him once he passed on, basically.
Right. They would see each other in heaven. You're referencing the 60 Minutes documentary.
Yes, you are. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm referencing.
I would recommend to everybody, if you haven't seen it, to go find the 60 Minutes documentary on Mount Athos. It's excellent.
Yeah, it really was a good one. It's a 2-parter and it's on YouTube. Definitely a good one. And it was from early 2000, I believe. So you got helicopter shots and that were nice and shaky instead of the drone shots, which are all smooth. But it made it more real. I wonder if
I can bring up the picture of. Hold on. Okay, go. I'm going to search real quick. Say if
go
you
for
have.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. I just remember the reporter was going through there. I mean, it was interesting. Like they had olive trees on the property, and it showed like just the daily lives of those monks there, how they were doing the chores throughout the day, and they were also doing their prayers as they worked. Like they were literally doing the Jesus prayer as they were doing whatever task they were doing throughout the day. Just under their breath sort of thing. It was something that was constantly on their mind, and they were keeping focus on even when doing their chores of the day. And that outfit there is pretty impressive. I mean, Mount Athos has an actual fab shop on it too. Like there was TIG welding going on. They had a full-on lathe and a milling machine. They were outfitted to be self-sufficient on that property.
Yep.
Is pretty impressive what they have accomplished there. And I joked with my uncle, I was just the architecture of it is just amazing because it's on the side of a hill over the ocean. It's amazing. It's been able to stand without sliding off into the ocean. It's been well
for hundreds of years. Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah, they do a lot of iconography on the Holy Mountain. Actually, I think 50 years ago, they didn't even have electricity there. And it was actually a big, on Mount Athos, it was a big discussion because a lot of the monks, they didn't want to bring on electricity. They knew that if they started to build roads and bring on motorized vehicles and electricity, then there would be more pilgrims coming. And it would kind of ruin their quietude. But actually St. Paisios actually spoke against bringing electricity to the Holy Mountain. But ultimately they did it, and I'm sure they had some counsel and when they decided to do that.
Interesting.
OBG says St. Silouan's needs seekers for the monastic life. She's referencing St. Silouan's Monastery in Sonora, California, which is east of San Francisco. And they have a monastery there with currently one monk. They had 2, but Father Maximus reposed. May his soul rest in peace. 40-day tonight. Okay, I'll pray. I'll be praying. I'll add my prayers for Father Maximus. Everybody pray for Father Maximus. I'm glad you mentioned that. Here is a photograph from the air of the monastery's property. So you can see how they're surrounded by this beautiful forest.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, you're right. They really are surrounded, kind of their own little plot. That's kind of shields them from everything else. That's neat. So, there's another question. Their diets, are they kind of like us, or are their diets more strict? Like, do they fast more throughout the week on like a vegan diet, or do they have diet or fasting where it's like a black fast where it's no food or water throughout the day? How is a monk's fasting? Is it different, or is it the same of what we're doing?
It's typically, well, the rules are the same, but it's except for that they don't eat meat. Monks don't eat meat generally. You'll see occasionally some monasteries will serve meat occasionally. And I'm sure they have a reason for that. But typically, monasteries don't eat meat. Sometimes they will have an extra fast day on Monday for the angels. So they'll be fasting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then there are also more strict days, and this depends on which monastery you're at and the health of the individual, what their capabilities are. But for example, the first 3 days of Great Lent, there's until after Vespers on Wednesday, there's no food. And also likewise, Great and Holy Friday, there are just some, it really depends on the monastery, but there are more strict practices. Generally, I visited the monastery in West Virginia, and they had one meal a day, one cooked meal a day during Great Lent, with an optional snack in the evening.
Gotcha. So, anything else you want to show off or get out there?
Well, I want to give you an opportunity to shill your channel. So tell us how to find you. And
all right.
Sorry to say shill. I don't mean that to promote your channel.
I get you. No. Yeah, for Rockfin, ROKFIN is the website. It's an independent media platform. They mostly do. It's kind of funny because they do like I was just saying, independent media as far as like some small level journalists that are on there, or just content creators. And then they also have sports. But either way, Rockfin's based in Austin, Texas. Very small group of people that keep it up. They do not censor on that platform one bit. This is why I was definitely very adamant on getting on Rockfin early on, was for that reason. I know there's other platforms that don't censor, but I just saw Rockfin as an up and coming one where it was like, this one has, well, like I was just saying, it has Jay Dyer on it. It has Tristan Haggard. It has David Patrick Harry. It has like really good quality content creators on there. And even when I petitioned to get on there, because I had nothing before this at all, and even now I'm still, very small channel, but I didn't have any social media presence. I didn't have anything, and you have to put in a petition to get on there. Oh. So I put in the petition to, can I make a channel on your site? And they ask all the questions. What social media platform do you have? What previous channels are you hosting your videos on? And it's like, I don't have anything. And they said specifically, they're like, you want to make a local channel for your state. You don't have any background on social media. This sounds like a waste of time, is what they told me. And I said, look, please give me a chance. I really want to. I had to come back and be like, people are hungry for new platforms. We need to get something, like this started, something ground level, and just see if we can start acquiring more to your site. It's a win-win. I get it. I'm not going to be huge on here because it's hard to get viewers on a site that people aren't familiar with, but it's just what I've been doing. So it got started about a year ago. The channel name is Rogue Splice, just one word. And yeah, again, it's just Oregon based for the most part. And we talk about a little bit of everything kind of going on in the world that affects stuff in Oregon, or it can be stuff that's happening in Oregon that affects Oregon as far as just that, and talk about events, local businesses, politics, a whole wide array of stuff. And if you have things that you want to get covered, you just, you can send me an email and I will go out in the field and videotape it. I will definitely go out there and try and get stuff covered that people want to see that mainstream media is not covering. So that's what it is, man. That's the site.
All right. Well, then everybody go and check out Rogue Splice. How did you choose that name, by the way?
Oh my gosh. Me and a friend were trying to figure out a name for 45 minutes, which is a long time for us as far as trying to make something up. But the name came from people going rogue from the existing system that we've been adhered to for so long. So we're splicing together all the people going rogue from the system is kind of
nice
how it came to be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for helping me today. You're kind of mentoring me here on this live streaming. You're like my older brother since you've been doing it longer. So
you're doing a great job. You're
thank
doing
you.
fantastic.
Corbin came over and gave me a lesson on how to use StreamYard. So we can thank him for my new tool that I've been using.
Yeah. It's a StreamYard is definitely a good one to start with for sure.
All right. So thank you for coming on. I'm going to navigate over here and say goodbye to my viewers. Hello, Therese. Good to see you. Thanks for watching. This turned out to be a popular stream. I think I had a lot of concurrent viewers today. So I'm glad that we were able to do this. Thank you all for tuning in. My next stream is Sunday. So look forward to that one coming up. And we'll see you all later. All right. Bye-bye.